Hi, thanks for joining us today. I'm Steve Salinas, Head of Product Marketing here at Stellar Cyber. I'm joined today by Michael Hamilton, the founder and CISO at Critical Insight. How are you doing today?
Doing well. How you doing?
Very good.
So the NIST framework, this is version 2 that just came out, and there's a couple of notable changes in here. One of them is a consolidation of some of the things that were in the identify focus area, and those have been extracted notably around risk management and put into a new one about governance. And so they're really leaning into governance, which is something you can see coming out of guidance all over the place, SEC, Health and Human Services. And there is more of a focus on supply chain security.
How do you think some of these organizations are going to interpret this? I mean, it seems like there is a lot of flexibility there. Do you
Mhm.
think they have the ability in-house to try to figure out how to get to that outcome? Or do they need to be working with like outside providers? Is it a mix? Like, what do you think?
Well, it's a mix. I mean, you could do it yourself. I think it's always better to have a third party do it. When you self-assess, it is, somewhat aspirational every time. But if you have somebody doing it with you, it doesn't take long. And what you can do is where an outcome is not being fully met, think about what the likelihood is that you could have a bad business outcome because of the failure for that outcome to be met. All right. So, for example, one of these is remote access is managed. Okay. Doesn't tell you how to do it, just says remote access is managed. Okay. Well, we're not doing that. So, by virtue of the fact that we are not managing remote access, notably by vendors and third parties and things like that, what is the likelihood that we could be extorted through ransomware, theft through business email compromise, be used as the third party to attack others, unauthorized disclosure of protected records, or just being disrupted for the sake of getting knocked down? So there are 5 business outcomes there that you can think about. If this control objective has not been met, what's the likelihood of one of those things happening? Those are all business outcomes. And then what would the impact of that be? And there are pretty good data sets around that. So, for example, you have 1 million records in a database that meet the definition of personally identifiable data. So you know that it's going to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 a piece to clean up after that if there's an unauthorized disclosure of protected records. All right, that's about $200 million in potential liability. Do your risk assessment like that, and then where there are gaps, budget those out. Are we going to fix this ourselves with internal labor? Are we going to hire consultants? Are we going to make a capital purchase? And at the end of this, you have a corrective action roadmap that you can run out for 2 years if you have a biennial budget like a lot of local governments do. And you know what it's going to cost.
Critical Insight, is this something that your organization can help with, or is that
So number one, we just have a spreadsheet for, version 2.0 of the NIST cybersecurity framework. And if you want it, we'll give it to you along with instructions on how to use it. And you can use it to do exactly what I said. Our managed customers that are on the Stellar platform, right? Because you are our platform of choice. Our managed customers get access to a free GRC, governance, risk, and compliance tool called CyberSaint, so that they can put information into this and make it durable, so that year after year you can do it again and you can say, oh, here's where we improved in this area. Look, our disaster recoverability has improved. And you can use that to take back to executives and say, here's how the investments you've made in security are helping our maturity, right, in our journey here to security. So and then, if you need a third party to come in and help you do it, we can absolutely do that.
all right? Well, that's great information. So let's talk a little bit about like the enforceability. So these are always the tricky parts with these regulations or these frameworks that might come out. Now,
Mm-hmm.
how are they really enforced? Like, so
Yeah.
what's your perspective on that?
Well, it depends on what sector you're in. So, for some sectors, the guidance is more than a suggestion. So, for example, well, let's take the healthcare sector. So, first of all, in the healthcare sector, you just saw what came out were the cybersecurity performance goals. And they already have the cybersecurity implementation guide, the health industry cyber practices. Okay. So, one thing federal government would like to do is consolidate all the guidance that's coming from all over the place and land on one thing that everybody can get their arms around, right? And so that's, the NIST cybersecurity framework. So when you're talking about, local government, for example, all right, I think this is interesting. While there is no mandate to use this in local government, which is a whole bunch of critical sectors under one roof, basically, there are certain carrots, incentives emerging. So, for example, in the states of Ohio and Connecticut, there are laws that say if you have aligned with the standard of practice and it is demonstrable, you have a safe harbor from regulatory action if you have a cyber event and you lose money or services go down or what have you. Florida just dropped a bill onto the House floor with pretty much the same language about safe harbor, along with a prohibition on paying ransomware payments, right? Extortion. So there are a few ways that the federal government can say, yeah, we want you to do it this way. For the rest of us, it's just a good idea, although incentives are emerging.
I'm just curious, prohibition against paying the ransomware. I know it's always been the guidance, don't pay the ransomware, don't pay it.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that companies do at times pay it. There was an article that came out a couple of weeks ago, and this was a funny thing where they weren't getting paid the ransom.
Right.
Um,
So here's what happened. So Black Cat, okay,
that's what it
Alf
was.
V, right? So they have infrastructure that they basically rent out, tools, infrastructure, malware, things like that, to anybody that wants to become a criminal. All right. So there's groups popping up all over the place that want to be criminals. So one of these is the one that got Change Healthcare. And we did see someone that watches blockchain transactions saw a $22 million payment go to the AlpV wallet. Okay. Right after that, the AlpV guys said, oh, Feds got us. We're shutting down. And they closed out the wallet and disappeared. And so the affiliate, right, the gang that actually did this using Black Cat's tools, they're just out of luck. But they still have all the records they stole, and they can extort them again based on those records. And if the records get out, then it's going to be a class action suit. And now it's going to
Right.
get out of control.
So, Michael, what with this new framework in place, are there any other kind of impacts that people are seeing, like maybe around cyber insurance? Is there any benefits there?
Yeah, actually, there was an article that came out probably 2 weeks ago or something like that. It was a study talking about how the use of the NIST framework is associated with lowered premiums. I keep going back to healthcare because we do a lot of business with healthcare, but this was a 2024 benchmarking study by Class Research, KLAS. That is a research organization for the healthcare sector. So that's pretty authoritative. So again, incentives, carrots, and there are mandates and sticks where the federal government has that ability.
Well, I can certainly see how insurance companies would like that because it gives them a little bit of assurance that, hey, you're actually doing what you should be doing. Right.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, ultimately, insurance companies, and I just saw the first example of this. Insurance companies are going to be providing managed detection and response, full-time monitoring of your network, because that is the only way for them to be able to understand and price this risk, right? They've been washed out of their ability to price this risk, and it's really hurt them. And without real-time data, you don't really understand how risky somebody is. So these things are starting to merge, insurance and full-time network monitoring.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, this is such a new emerging market. Uh, and I think for the insurance companies, it's just to manage their exposure as well, and
Yeah.
to make sure they're pricing it correctly. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, great, Michael. This was a great little conversation about the impacts of the new NIST framework. If you have any other questions, I'm sure you can reach out to Critical Insight. They'd be happy to help you understand it better. If you have any questions about Seller Cyber or Open XDR platform, certainly reach out to us. And aside from that, have a great day.